I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everyone on behalf of FansBet that have contributed to the Giving Back programme. Your support is hugely appreciated, and we can guarantee that it will go exactly where you think it should go, and that's to some deserving cause. All the best, thanks very much, and your support is greatly appreciated.
Okay, so we got some questions sent in by some of our fan partners that have been eager to ask you a few questions of their own. This is from the Anfield chat, and they've asked, what are your thoughts on Steven Gerrard's achievement as manager, having recently won the title with Rangers, and could he eventually take over as a Liverpool boss in future?
I think his achievements have been fantastic. I think he was doing a really good job down at the academy with some of the kids, and obviously you get the flavour for it. And Rangers were, I mean, he wasn't inexperienced, but he never had the mileage at any other club for them to judge. So they judged him as a person, and from the footballing side when he played, and also the work he was doing in the academy. And it was a brave decision for them. I always thought Steven was going to be a really good coach, manager, whatever you want to call it, but certainly the managerial side, he's got a presence about him, and he's got a great deal of knowledge. He always spoke well on television, and I thought that when he get in the managerial stint, he would do a fantastic job. And the people at Rangers had been, I mean, they'd lost, they'd been relegated down about 2 or 3 divisions and fought their way back up. And the first season he went in, made a huge difference. Second, improvement again. And this year, they've just done fantastically well. So Steven has done a great job there. He's got a great deal of support around about him with Gary Mack for Liverpool, Bealey for Liverpool, and a couple of other boys. Even the club doctors up there at Rangers now working with him. So he's got real secure people round about him, and he's got a great relationship with the board up there. So everything looks really good for him. All the success that he had this year he deserved, because he is a really good, knowledgeable footballing person, and he comes across really well in television. So the presentation side of it, which is important nowadays on television, is brilliant. And the footballing knowledge and people around about him, it's been a really good case for him. Will he ever come back to Liverpool? Listen, Liverpool's always played a huge part in his life, and I don't think it's any different now. And if Liverpool had a need to ask Steven to do something, I'm sure he would consider it. But I don't think, unless something drastic happens here, I don't think it's going to be tomorrow, is it?
Yeah, you hope not.
But he's certainly got the right credentials to be a Liverpool manager.
Okay, well, talking of Liverpool managers, the Anfield chat always also ask you, many people remark about the similarities between Jurgen Klopp and Bill Shankly. Do you feel that's a fair comparison?
I think there are comparisons, obviously the accent though. But for me, I think Jurgen's fantastic. The way that the success that he's had, he shares around about everybody, appreciates everybody, gives everybody the credit that they deserve for doing the job well, because if they don't do their job well in every department, you're not going to have success. So I think that's a huge thing, and Shanks had it as well. Shanks could share out the plaudits to his staff and everybody else, and also the two of them relate brilliantly to the public. So I think the football club at Liverpool is hugely important that they have a good relationship with the community, and through Shanks and also through Jurgen, I think that's how it's turned out, and the both of them have similarities, but they're also their own selves as well.
Okay, so the Spy and Cop, they've sent you a couple of questions, and the first one is, do you have a favourite ever goal for Liverpool? Well, you've got a fair few to choose from, admittedly.
No, not really. The European Cup goal, because I always wanted to have a European trophy, I play in the European final, and to do that in the first year was important. That no the goal, but the goal ends up winning the game. If Davy Fairclough had booted it in when it was going to cross the goal, by the way, it made no difference whatsoever to me, because I was getting the winner's medal at the end of the game.
That was Wembley, Bruges, yeah.
So that's probably, and it must have been that or something, either that or Chelsea, because the goal at Wembley against Bruges, I actually jumped to advertising boards after I scored. And
you didn't fancy doing that at Chelsea? Huh?
No, I didn't see the advertising boards. But that tells you that I must have been excited and pleased about it. So I'd pick that one, but then Chelsea was
Chelsea famously to win the league and the double ultimately. So
well, we won the league. That goal was a goal on the day that won us the league, but that wasn't what won us the league. We won us the league because of the contribution of everybody else. So I just happened to score both the goals, and somebody's got to score them. And for me, it didn't matter who scored them. It just mattered at the end of the day that you got your reward for it, either points or trophies.
So the Spartan Cop also ask, they say you signed some terrific players in your time as Reds boss, but who would you consider to be your best signing as Liverpool manager? Or can you give us an answer to that question?
No, I wouldn't. Who? I don't know. I honestly don't know who the best signing would be.
I mean, you could. There's a few. There must be a fair few there that you can choose from.
Yeah, and the success was there. So it's no. Some players that you sign get greater credit. It's like anything in a team. People get greater credit. The people take them more to their heart than some others. But no, I wouldn't like to pinpoint one and say that was hugely important. As I say, everybody's important, and not every person that you sign turns out to be at Liverpool for as long as you would like, or make the contribution either you or they would like. So you get one or two right, but you also get them wrong.
So Cop Ice has sent in a couple of questions for you. The first one was there anyone who inspired you to become the player you turned out to be?
Well, I think everybody that starts off in life gets their inspiration for their dad. I mean, it was my dad that took me to the football first and foremost. The dad who encouraged me. When you come back for the match, he'd take the ball out and have a kick about in the back garden with you. He'd with the works car, he'd drive you to where you were playing for the school, or where you were playing that after playing for the school, you go and play for your amateur side in the afternoon. So I think it comes, the first people that you meet are your parents, so they guide you in the right direction. But for me, everybody that's come across us has made a contribution, and that doesn't mean to say it's always been favourable. Sometimes it's bad, so you learn some bad things and things that aren't right. And if you're going to go on in life and have longevity, you're going to have to look at what was wrong and assess what was wrong, and it's still an education. So the people who I've been involved with, like Big Jockstein and Bob Paisley, and the people at Liverpool have been fantastic.
Okay, so Cop Ice also ask you played alongside some Liverpool greats, but which ones did you enjoy playing with the most? Another tricky one, but
I think it's more important to ask who they enjoy playing with. I enjoy playing with anybody. As long as I got a game, I was okay. There's never been anybody that we've played with that's no giving everything they've got. And that's all you can ask for. Commitment and effort. And if it doesn't turn out for them, then obviously it doesn't turn out. But there's nobody ever came into the dressing rooms when I've been here that's walked in and thought they were big time. They walked in and they thought, well, I mean, I can't go down that road because I'm going to be lonely, I'm going to be the only one here. So the people that walked into the dressing room the dressing room set the rules and regulations, and they had to conform. And I think that was a huge part of Liverpool's success, the fact that everybody in there knew that they were all equal, and everybody in there respected each other.
Okay, so this is from Hat, Scarf or Badge, and it's a bit of a personal question for them, but one that you'll know well. He says one of his first games, or his first memories, was Liverpool famously beating Spurs 7-0 at Anfield in September '78. What do you remember about that game, and was it the best overall team performance you played in?
Well, once again, I don't know if it was the best overall team performance, but I know they had 2 World Cup winners for 78, the Argentinians, Ardiles and Villa.
Yeah.
So they come on with the all, what is it, tyres and whistles and everything, and they were going to be, this was going to be the new successful side in England, and we beat them 7.
Yeah.
And the most memorable thing about that day was the 7th goal in the last minute. They had a corner and Terry Mack was on the goal post defending it. We've headed it out. There's been 1 pass, 2 passes across, and Terry Mack has run the full length of the pitch and headed in the 7th at the Annie Road end. Mm. So for me, that was, it was, I think the boys maybe were a wee bit wound up that they were coming up with the belts and whistles and we're going to do it. We've got the 2 Argentinian World Cup players. Well, they did win the World Cup, deservedly so, but they still get beat 7-0. I think that just gave the boys a wee bit of an edge to it.
Fair enough. They also ask, do you have a favourite game as a player or manager for the Reds? Again, a lot to choose from, but anything stand out particularly other than that one?
No, I think maybe make my debut at Anfield against Newcastle. Tuesday night, it was the 2nd game of the season. We'd drawn 1 each at Middlesbrough, and to get the welcome I received from the supporters was hugely comforting for me. And then Ray Kennedy knocked 1 through, and then I ran on and scored. So at the Cop as well. So he got off to a good start. Was important, but I think the reception he gave us was I was really grateful for, and it really helped you to get the belief that they trusted you.
Mm. And they also ask, and this isn't necessarily a player you've played with, but I mean, is there a greatest player you've ever seen in your lifetime that you could name?
Probably Pele.
Yeah, simple one.
Aye, simple one and easy to say.
Okay, so read all over the land, Liverpool fans have asked you, how different did you find managing the club when you came back in 2011 to when you were manager in the mid-80s?
Well, the world moves on, then it moves forward. It was disappointing for me that Roy Hodgson was such a really good fella and gentleman got removed for his job, but if you're not getting results, you know you're going to be removed. And they asked me if I would come back. Of course I'm going to come back. It's not, I'm not going to get any other answer. But the situation changes throughout life, isn't it? It progresses. That was, what, 10 years or something since I'd left and came back in, something like that. And then the world's changing, isn't it? The political correctness was coming in, and this is the do's and don'ts, and you can't do this, you can't do that. It didn't stop you playing football, but I mean, you had to manage a wee bit differently. And because the kids had grown up, they'd been kids when you'd been there before, and they grow up, they're adults, they're expected to be treated the way they've been brought up. You just have to conform, or you don't get anywhere. But when we come into the dressing room, it was a really good dressing room as well. And it was a surprise to me that they couldn't get results.
So we've got a question from View of the Cop here, and they say, what would you say is your proudest achievement in your footballing career?
Proud? Well, how would you define proud? I don't know how you define it. You get pride in everything that you've done if it's successful, don't you? I just think that I've been fortunate enough to be successful in a lot of occasions. So any success that you get makes you feel proud. I think away for the football, but still inclusive of the football, was, I think, the proudest moment that I've had at Liverpool Football Club was the way the club and everybody got together after Hillsborough in '89. And that takes it away for football. Football was putting the the back burner for that, and rightly so. And I think that's been one of the highlights of how the club cope with it. It probably make it as proud as anything that you've won on the pitch.
Yeah, that's very fair. They've also asked, View of the Cop have also asked you, and this is topical, what's your view on VAR, and do you think it's benefiting the game?
No, I think VAR is helpful. I mean, the VAR doesn't give you the answer. It gives you a view of what the decision is you've got to make. So it still comes down to human error. And I think they've got to like top and tail it a wee bit. I don't know how you can judge somebody by an armpit, and I don't think the technical quality, the equipment that they're using is accurate enough to be definitive enough by small margins when something's a moving part. So I think it could be helpful. I think it is helpful, and I think everybody's going to get the benefit or face the wrath with VAR. But at least they've got an idea of what it's happened. They've got a chance to go and have a look. They've got a chance to make their mind and make a decision right. And as long as the referees don't think that they've been spied upon, or as long as they take it in the way that it's supposed to be implemented, to try and get it as correct as we possibly can and get the decisions as right as they possibly can, then I think it has a role to play.
So the Anfield Press, they ask you, it's been a difficult season for the Reds, the second half of it particularly. If you were in charge, would you do anything differently as manager of Liverpool? Well,
the guy in charge is a guy who everybody wants to be in charge. So it's outrageous to even contemplate me being in charge instead of Jurgen. So I just think that sometimes it's harder to continue the success than it is to have a success. And if there's anybody you want to be in charge of the football club right at this particular moment in time, it's Jurgen.
And they ask, the Anfield Press, they also ask you, if you could play up front with any one of the current front three at Liverpool, who would it be and why?
Nah, I couldn't. No, it's 70 years of age. You can't play up front with anybody, can you?
I think you'd still give him a...
No, you need one of the motorbike things on the pitch if I was going to play. No, I think the three of them have been fantastic in the main for us, and although things aren't going so well this year, I think Mo's still up there with the top goal scorers in the Premier League. Sadio's been fantastic for us since he came. And Bobby's, I mean, you just have a look at what he did at Leicester, the touch he had, the control he had of the ball, he just lay it, and Mo finishes it brilliantly. I mean, the three of them are good enough in themselves, so they don't need anybody to come in and play with or instead of.
Especially not a 70-year-old man.
No, no geriatric.